And now, live from an undisclosed location, deep in the heart of American flyover country, I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian whistleblower, under the radar, but always over the top. And if you don't believe that, check out my Tyrannosaurus Rex unicorn shirt that looks like it's sparkly, but it's not. It's just a optical illusion, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we've got some good stuff for you. I'll mention a couple things. Number one, at 1 p.m. Central, we've got Halo Marquise on. It's going to be a great show talking about divine timing. And speaking of divine timing, if I'm going too far over on this one, we might part one, part two this. Hello, Kathy. Hello, Rocker. Hello, Tracy. Hello, Christine. Hello, M. Rom. Hello to all of you. I've got some really good Power Vapor Supply. I had some really nice advice from a beautiful young lady yesterday. And she said, Jeff, your job is to wake people up. And I just wanted to share with you. And she's so right. And she's so kind. And she's so considerate. And she's so just really, really trying to help. She says, I go up to my children and I'll, hi, little Johnny. And just, touch them and stroke their hair. And hi, little Johnny. Time to wake up. Hi, little Bobby. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Time to wake up. And Jeff, you're so harsh with the way that you wake people. And if you would just be a little bit more calm, and I think people would wake up easily and they would feel better about it. And they'd be really nice and happy. And it'd be really, really good. And I'm not trying to make fun of her because she's right. She's right. I should be. I'm like Christine Green. Christine Green says, also sweet. And I am, get your ass out of bed. Wake up. There's a fire. See, that's my deal. If we had more time, we could stroke hair. We could pat heads. We could pinch little cheeky weekies. But bro, I ain't got no more time for that shit. Stuff. No more time for that stuff. There's a fire. The roof is on fire, and not in a good way. I'm like George Costanza at that kids' party. Fire, fire! Except I'm not pushing people out of the way. I'm waking them up. We don't have any time to be sweet. We don't have any time to be nice. The roof is on fire. It's about to cave in on your head any moment. So I'm sorry that I'm abrupt, but I'm not sorry. I'm sorry that I'm yelling and screaming, but I'm not sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, the roof is on fire. And I don't have time to be nice. I don't have time to be sweet. And I don't even have the ability to do that. And some other people have said, Jeff, we really don't like those glasses. We don't like those red glasses. Well, I've taken it under consideration, and I've carefully considered it, and I've decided that I spend so much time in front of this computer that I've decided that the health of my eyesight means more to me than your opinions. I'm sorry to put it that way. I'm really not, but that's just the way it is, ladies and gentlemen. I wear these because they're blue blockers. I spend so much time in front of this computer. And even if I just don't wear them while you're on the air. I get that. But I'm on the air 3 or 4 hours a day. And I appreciate it. It doesn't look as good. Your eyes are pretty. It makes you look like a cult leader. I get it. I understand. And I appreciate you for being so kind and caring. But it's just too bad. I can't do it. I got to protect my eyesight, and I got to go around yelling and screaming and waking people up. And I can't do it in a gentle way. Like if the bridge was out a mile down the road and the cars are zooming by, excuse me, pardon me, excuse me, hey, motherfucker, I got the bridges out. What's the matter? The bridge is out. Oh, okay. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about this. This is another one of those things that if I was smarter, I wouldn't talk about, but I'm not that smart. Alberto Rivera, PsyOp. Many of you fell in love with the little chick tracts, the little cartoon books. You're going to hell, you're burning forever, all of that stuff. Well, their biggest sellers ever was this guy named Alberto Rivera. Supposedly he was a Catholic priest, and he was showing you that the priests were all bad and the Catholicism is a scam. And I believe in that. But one of his big things was that the Roman Catholicism created Islam. And I get emails and letters every day. Jeff, don't you know that Roman Catholicism created Islam? There's proof. And they send me to this Alberto Rivera BS. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not real. No, I'm not saying that the Roman Catholics didn't create Islam. I'm just saying I have yet to see any proof that the Roman Catholics created Islam. And until you send me some proof that is not from Alberto Rivera, I'm going to laugh at you. Because Alberto Rivera is a PsyOp that has sucked in countless Protestants, most of you of the eschatology, EndTime, Third Temple, red heifer lunacy. And I'm going to show you today, ladies and gentlemen, that Alberto Rivera is a fraud. And I'm going to show you that Alberto Rivera is a Jesuit PsyOp propagandist, and I think he's dead now, thankfully, because he can't cause any more trouble. Did I just say that? I did, and I meant it. So this guy is supposed to be Alberto Rivera. He's supposed to have been a dude that was a Catholic priest, and he changed. Basically, here's his story. He was born in Spain. He was placed in a Jesuit seminary at the age of 7, where he trained for the priesthood. He was taught how to infiltrate and destroy Protestant churches and aid the ecumenical movement. He claims he destroyed several Christian churches throughout the world. He was an ordained Jesuit priest and became a bishop, again, supposedly. He says he worked with people like Catherine Kuhlman and Jim Jones, and because of his experience, he was ordered to join the ecumenical forces under the Pope. That's when he says he learned that the Catholic Church had secretly joined forces with the communists, the Masons, the Illuminati, and, worst of all, the charismatic movement. The hypocrisy of it all was too much for him. He began to expose what Rome was planning. For this, he was committed to a sanitarium, and then on the verge of death, he was converted. Since he knew too much, the Catholic Church wanted him dead, but mysteriously he was released and helped out of Spain. He then rescued his sister, a nun, from death in a British convent. He now claims he's running for his life, hunted by the Jesuit assassins, but he was all over YouTube, all over Barky Please. No, not now. All over it, getting on TV and getting his face as much as he possibly could out there. So an interesting way to run for your life, ladies and gentlemen. In 1980, he issued a sworn statement defending his allegations. He declared under oath that Alberto, which was the name of this little comic book thing, which was by and far the runaway bestseller that chick ever did, that it was a true and actual account, that he would face a court of law to prove that the events actually took place. He challenged anyone who would refute or try to prove the facts or information in his book. And the Catholic League for Religious and Civil Rights has asked the California Attorney's General Office to investigate Chick publishers. Jack Chick just died, I know, and so-called Alberto Rivera, which is a false name, for false advertising and consumer fraud. So the question is he real? No, he's not real. I have done some study, and I have referenced other people's intensive investigations that shows he has a police record, investment schemes, a writer of bad checks, contradictory testimony, fabricated educational record, and is a repeat family abuser. Let's start at the beginning, ladies and gentlemen. And I know you love Alberto, and I know you love to read about it, and I know you love to quote it. I know you love to say, see right here, it's proof. Did you ever think that you're saying, hey, see right here, it's proof, and you're holding up a comic book? It's proof. Is she holding up a comic book? It's proof. Is he holding up a comic book? Ladies and gentlemen, may I just help you out? Could I just suggest to you for something? Suggest to you something for a moment. If you're holding what you're holding in your hand as proof is a comic book, think it over before you go public with that as proof. So anyway, Alberto Rivera, a.k.a. Alberto Romero, he has a history of legal entanglements. As of the writing of this article, and I'm reading from, what am I reading from? I'm reading from conspiracyschool.com, David Livingstone, Alberto Rivera's false anti-Catholic story. So I'm just reading the facts, ma'am, and this person pulled them out, so I want to give full credit to the person that pulled them out. So at the writing of this article, he was involved in a court action in Southern California accused of fraud. A gentleman named Cesar Ramirez gave Alberto $2,000 to invest in property in Huntington Park. Property was never purchased. He asked Ramirez for the money back. And no, Ramirez asked for his money back. Alberto gave him a donation slip. And he's now being sued to recover his money. In 1965, a warrant was issued for his arrest in Hoboken, New Jersey for writing bad checks. He left debts in excess of $3,000. In 1967, he went to work at the Church of God of Prophecy, which is in Cleveland, Tennessee. He was collecting funds for a college in Terrassa, Spain. Only problem was Church of God of Prophecy wrote back and said, hey, is he authorized to collect funds for you guys? No. No, he was not authorized to collect funds for us. And the school later discovered that while he claimed to be a Catholic priest, he had never been one. Just because you don't see proof doesn't mean it's not true. Yes, it does. When you don't see proof, that's exactly what it means. If you don't see proof, that means it's not true. So anyway, he claimed to be a Catholic priest. He never was one. He left debts there at the church in the name of San Lorenzo, and that the Spanish police were seeking him for swindles and cheats. And finally, they said that none of the funds he raised ever reached the college. Imagine that. And in a letter to the Department of Justice, Reverend Charles Harkins of the Church of God of Prophecy stated that Alberto's bank had contacted them because he'd written a bad check to Delta on a closed account, Delta Airlines. 2 warrants were issued against him in DeLand and Ormond Beach, Florida. The first was for the theft of a credit card. The criminal investigation showed that he charged over $2,000 on that credit card. The second warrant was for the unauthorized use of an automobile, otherwise known as GTA, He abandoned the vehicle in Seattle, moved to Southern California. In 1964, while working for the Christian Reformed Church, he said he was converted from Catholicism in 1952. Now he says it was 1967. While speaking at the Faith Baptist Church in Canoga Park, California, he said his conversion was 3 a.m. on March 20th, 1967. He said he immediately defected from the Catholic Church. However, 5 months later, he was still promoting Catholicism and the ecumenical movement in a paper interview in his hometown of Las Palmas in the Canary Islands. More discrepancy involving his stay in the sanitarium. He says he was placed there in 65 for exposing the church, but he was there. But that would put his conversion and release from the sanitarium no later than 1966. He also lists his release date as 67. He doesn't reveal what happened during those 1.5 years. However, the newspaper said that he'd been doing ecumenical work in Spain during the previous 6 months, the time that he was supposed to be in a sanitarium for exposing Rome's ecumenical plot. If you're going to be a liar, you got to be careful. Alberto's claims to have been a Jesuit priest are denied by the Catholic Church. The document he exhibits as proof of his priesthood is little more than a form letter giving permission to travel abroad. The document was fraudulently obtained. The accounts of his ordination are contradictory. Sometimes he claims it's 67. Sometimes he claims it's 78. He also claims that he was a Jesuit bishop. Alberto admits that he never had been ordained a bishop now, but used the title for prestige. That's called lying. That's called lying. And after he allegedly escaped the Catholics and rescued his sister, Maria, I mean, come on, Maria, how authentic is that? A nun from a convent in London. And he was also proven not to be in London during that time, but he was in the YMCA. Wow. Interesting, folks. The Church of God of Prophecy says they did pick him up in a monastery, but that he had only one sister in London. Her name wasn't Maria. She wasn't a nun, never lived in a convent, but worked in a private London home as a maid. Wow. All of his degrees that he claimed were traced down, and they came from places that you can get in the back of the National Enquirer. He has been described as negligent by those who knew him, married and divorced several times. Can't hold that against a guy. Oh, my. The guy has a horribly fraudulent story. He has a horribly fraudulent past. He is a liar. He is a cheat. He is a phony beyond compare. So the question is, why should we care? Yes, he's a fraud, but why should we care? Well, we'll just hit some more highlights of his fraudulent nature here before we go. He was born in the Canary Islands. He claims to have been a Catholic. However, we found that his parents were Protestants, that he himself had been a Protestant from birth. He was married in the Christian Reformed Church during the time he says that he was supposedly in a sanitarium. He claims to have many numerous degrees and a master's in physiology. But according to Reverend Plutarco Bonilla, who is a respected Christian leader in Central America, Alberto enrolled in the Protestant seminary in San Jose in a program designed for students who had not graduated high school, and he was expelled for lying and defiance of authority. He later admitted that he had obtained all his degrees from the back of a magazine from what's called a diploma mill in Colorado. He claims he was a Catholic priest, attended Catholic seminary, was a Jesuit. None of these things have been substantiated. They have all been rejected and pronounced as untrue from the Catholic Church. His claims to have been a Catholic priest have been thoroughly disproven. Indeed, those who checked his claims found that he instead has a long history of swindling, is wanted in Spain, is wanted in the Canary Islands, is wanted in the U.S., and was collecting money for colleges that have never received them. Nevertheless, you can't call him a quitter. He started a ministry in the U.S. called the Antichrist Information Center. His sister was not a nun, never was a nun, was a live-in maid. He also blamed the Vatican for things that happened after he allegedly left the Catholic Church. So what a tangled web we weave when we practice to deceive. So what's the real deal here, ladies and gentlemen? The real deal is that Alberto Rivera is a PsyOp. And Alberto Rivera is a play on words with this guy right here. Alberto Rivera is a play on words with Francisco Rivera. Do you see the similarity? There is no Alberto Rivera. It's a made-up name, and it is paying homage to Francisco Rivera. Francisco Rivera was the Spanish priest who wrote the book that started, for all intents and purposes, the anti-Reformation movement. He wrote the book that created the idea that the Antichrist was going to be future and not the Catholic Church of the past. He wrote the book that created the idea that there'd be a third temple built in the future. He wrote the book that created the idea that there would be a future tribulation, that there would be a future rapture, that there would be a future red heifer, that there would be a future two witnesses. All of this was invented, not in the Bible, ladies and gentlemen, but by a Spanish Jesuit theologian. And even Wikipedia knows he was identified with the futurist Christian eschatological view, which interprets portions of the book of Revelation and the book of Daniel as future events in a literal, physical, and apocalyptic global context. Up until when he wrote this book in 1570, up until he published this book in 1570, none of this stuff had ever been pondered or considered by any biblical or Christian advocates. Everyone always knew, and you should know now, that the book of Revelation and the book of Daniel is fulfilled prophecy as of, let's say at the very least, AD 4 or 500. I would really offer AD 70. But there is no more biblical prophecy. It's all scripted prophecy from here. And it's from the pen of this guy, Francisco Rivera. And Alberto Rivera is homage to Francisco Rivera, because Alberto Rivera, even though Alberto Rivera, where is he? Come on, Alberto, don't hide from me. Even though Alberto Rivera alleges to be against the Catholic Church, even though Alberto Rivera alleges to warn against the Catholic Church, Alberto Rivera's writings and the whole bibliography of the Chick tracts clearly shows, and Alberto's works were the by far the most popular of the Chick tracts. And I wonder if I can give you a picture of Chick tracts so you know exactly what I'm talking about. I think most of you have seen them, but let me see if I can get you a picture of these Chick tracts. Chick tracts. And and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about as soon if we can pull up some pictures of Chick tracts, images. Oh yeah, check this out, ladies and gentlemen. But he's saying that the Catholics are wrong. But he's saying that the Catholics invented Judaism or Islam. But he's saying all these things that are right. Well, number one, if they're right, they're not. He's making stuff up, ladies and gentlemen. You don't know they're right. You can't use this guy as proof. These are the Chick tracts we're talking about. These little comic book things right here. These little comic book things. These are what we're talking about. These little comic book things. These are Chick tracts. And what they talk about is people going to hell and burning forever. What they talk about is the false flag crucifixion. What they talk about is the tribulation and the rapture. They talk about being left behind in the rapture. They talk about having to go through the tribulation. They talk about the third temple being rebuilt. They're all about eschatology, ladies and gentlemen. And eschatology, as we have clearly seen, is created not by the New Testament. It's created not by anybody, ladies and gentlemen, that had any belief of any Christian belief before the 16th century. It's created by, oh, I went away from our boy. It's created by this guy, Francisco Rivera, the Jesuit priest, ladies and gentlemen. Francisco Rivera, the Jesuit priest. Alberto Rivera is to get you believing that they're against Catholicism so that you'll buy their eschatology. because they don't really care if you are against the Catholic Church as long as you buy their burn in hell forever, as long as you buy their eschatology, as long as you buy their fear, as long as you buy their guilt, as long as you buy their control. They don't care. Alberto Rivera is a PsyOp to get you to believe that they're against the Catholics so that they can sell you 100% pure, undigested, undiluted Jesuit doctrine of eschatology. Get you afraid, get you scared, get you filled with guilt, and get you back into Roman Catholicism, back into Roman Protestantism, because people are fleeing in droves. Do you see what I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen? Do you see what I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen? He claims to be anti-Catholic. So you'll say, oh, he's anti-Catholic. So we can read the rest of these, and they draw you right back into the Jesuit doctrine of eschatology. That's what it's all about. It's a PsyOp, and you've been buying it for years and years and years and years and years, and you're still buying it because I still get the messages, I still get the emails, I still get the comments on the channel. Jeff, the Catholics created Islam. Here's proof, man. And it's the stories of the proven liar, cheater, thief, Alberto Rivera. He's a fraud. And if you believe it, you're worse than a fraud, especially now that you know. Especially now that you know. Alberto Rivera is a PsyOp. It is Jewish propaganda. It is eschatology, end-time prophecy, deception, and it's been duping the church and good people like you for long enough. And ladies and gentlemen, again, just a suggestion. If your proof text is found in a comic book, you might want to rethink it. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. I'm bringing you the mail. I'm bringing it to you. You can decide what to think. I'll bring you to the water. You can decide whether or not you want to drink. I hope you'll continue to ask questions. I hope you'll continue to question answers. I hope you'll actually guide your own spirit, master your own ascension, and be your own guru. And I do hope that you'll be here in about 45 minutes when Barkley stops squeaking that toy. And Halo is on talking about divine timing. And if you think I'm dangerous, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you can keep an eye on me. If you think I'm putting out some good information, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you don't miss anything. And on your way out, if you liked this show, give me a thumbs up. If you hated this show, give me a thumbs down. Let your let your opinion be known. Somebody in the chat room got saved in the pages of a chick comic book. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. Yeah, have fun with your cartoon comic book God. I hope you wake up. Until then, I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower, encouraging you to step away from the comic book. And now that's high praise, Charlie Bear. Thank you. And please unindoctrinate yourself.